What's up, suckers? My name is Neek, and this is my monthly portfolio check-in. I decided instead of making a video for every assignment I do, because it's incredibly time-consuming and very, very stressful, uh, I thought it'd be much easier to do a video every month to recap the progress I make on my portfolio. I have two final pieces and a bunch of planning sketches to go with it, so let's talk about it. So for this first piece, I already introduced you guys to this character. You guys already met Sage in a previous video, which is the first episode of this cutesy little portfolio series. So you already met her. She's based off of my friend Paige. She's a lovely, amazing individual. So if you want to learn more about her and get a more of a deep dive into her character and some insight into her design, there's a video already out on my channel. It's been out for a hot minute. Put a cutesy little button thing for you to press. I don't know what it's called. I forgot, but I'll put it somewhere and you could watch that video. But I only showed you guys the sketches that I did, like the character sheets and stuff. I didn't show you the final piece. So the final piece is called My Sunshine, and it is a monochromatic piece that I did of me and my friend Paige together under a cityscape. And I already showed you guys the first bit of planning. That's the character sheet. I showed you guys, I think I showed a little bit, like a little baby snippet of the written research that I did in my sketchbook, but I never showed you guys color analysis that I did, because every piece is going to go with a color analysis, because color is the main theme of my portfolio. It's what the portfolio is about. So every piece is going to have a color analysis attached to it to show how I plan to use that color. This is that color analysis sheet right here, right now. Everything I did digitally, so I also did this on the drawing program that I use. As you can see, I have the cutesy little reference photo in the middle. That's the pose I decided to do. I feel like it coincided with the theme and the way I wanted to portray the two characters. Since Paige is a healer, I put her on the lower end. She's the girl who's dipping down onto the other girl's hip as a way of healing through contact. It'll make more sense once you see the literal piece. And then I just wanted to show where the colors were gonna go, what I wanted the vibe of the piece to be, why I chose yellow, all that good jazz. Now for the actual piece itself, I obviously started with the sketch. I always sketch in red. I sketch the figure out in red and then do the detail in blue. There's no reason for that. I don't know why I do that. It's just been my process for a very long time now. And then after I finish the final sketch, I then build up the background. I always start with the people first and then the background last, because I draw people most, so it's easiest to me. So I start with the easy stuff first so I can focus, really focus on all the stuff that is more difficult for me. And for that, it was the cityscape. And the way I went about it was simple, because I'm new to drawing backgrounds and trying to build up an environment. So I'm taking it step by step. But then after I finish all the sketches, I get into color blocking. So I start placing colors where I think I'd want them. And I actually went through a little bit of a predicament in this piece. So I originally started with the color palette that was on the color analysis. Those were the colors that I thought looked good together, and I liked the way they looked next to each other. But then once I tried to vary them around the background, it started looking a little dull, kind of grayed out. So I was like, oh no, this won't do. This does not portray the vibe of the piece at all. So I switched to using oranges and yellows, and that kind of helped tie in the piece a whole lot better. Like you can see after the color switch, everything looks a lot brighter, a lot happier, a lot more vibrant. And then I started tweaking little details. That plane in the corner of the piece was the best thing I've ever done. I don't know why I'm so proud of that plane, but I am. Like those little bits and pieces, like some of the windows being lit up and stuff like that, like the little haze of the sun around and the sky. I don't know. I'm real proud of this. I think this piece is gorgeous. And everything's yellow. The whole piece is yellow actually. Once you see me start to fill in the figures too, I start to use various shades of yellow for the skin, the clothes, literally everything. I wanted to challenge myself in using one color. I don't do it often, and I think monochromatic pieces in general are like very beautiful, so I wanted to take my hand in doing my own. And yellow is a very happy color. The vibe of me and Paige's connection is happy. It's very bright, very vivid. So I decided to portray that through the color yellow. So I actually did the line art for the figures in purple because there was a lot of layers. There was a lot of layers going into this piece. So, and I didn't feel like turning them all off until later. So I decided that the easiest thing was to sketch in a complementary color so it'd be easier to see the line art, easier to fill it in, and then I can just make it all a dark color later, which is exactly what I did. And then I finally stopped being lazy and turned off all the layers so I could easily shade the figures separately and then add lighting in later. I'm also taking my hand at environmental lighting, obviously, because it helps the figures look like they're actually meant to be in the place that they're put. So I think I did a good job on the lighting too, making everything seem like sunrisey type feel. You know what I'm saying? So I polished up the figures, adding in the highlights and the regular shadows of their bodies, and then turning all the layers on back on from the background, and then doing environmental lighting, making sure everything was neat and dandy and all tied in. And of course, I added my cute little artist signature in the bottom. And yeah, that is my first piece of my portfolio, my sunshine. Also, another thing I forgot to explain is the cutesy little like health bar thing above my head and the little hearts coming off of Paige. It's supposed to be like a video game type feel where it's like actively showing her healing me. I thought that was a nice touch, and then I had to explain it because I thought I cooked with that. That was really cute. Okay, on to the next piece. And now you're finally delving into new territory. These are two very new friends, very lovely friends that I have been in the Art Magnet with for a very long, long time now, and their names are Asayal and Lily. The way I view these two amazing people is that Asayal is a very calm, smart person. Asayal is very smart. So I decided to take his intelligence and use that as the staple of his character. His power is telekinesis and defragmentation. He can break things down to the molecular level. I can speak, I promise. Which is why in his character sheet he's holding the molecular structure for dopamine to like show what his power can do essentially. And I also did written research for these two as well. I'm literally going to dig through my bags right now and find it so I can read it because I'm very proud of this research. The way I figured out his name to be Dr. Divinity was like a real roundabout way of doing things, honestly. So I looked up the meaning of his name, and Google told me that it was like it had Hebrew ties, Hebrew origins. So I ran with that. And then somehow that led me to like his general vibe of him being like giving him an Egyptian type wardrobe costume, something or other like that. And I chose Dr. Divinity since Asiol's name had Hebrew origin and it means made by God. I just thought that tied in cutely. You know what I mean? So that's how I figured that out. And then as for Lily, she is the most talented painter I've ever seen, actually. Her work like blows my mind, literally. So, and she draws a lot of nature. So I knew I wanted her to be some kind of being hero rooted in nature. So I made her a fairy because I thought that was very fitting. And her name was literally already the name of a flower. So I thought that was too perfect to not just keep. So I kept it on purpose. I know it seems like a little bit of a lazy move, but I think that it fit perfectly. Now, as for color choice, I asked them what their favorite color was. And Lily told me she liked pink, so I ran with that. And Asael told me he liked specifically midnight blue, so I ran with a dark blue and silver vibe for his costume. And then there's a reason why I chose to give Lily the wings that she has, and that is because in my research I found out that lilies naturally grow in the northern hemisphere, and cabbage white butterflies are normally the ones who, I phrased that sentence wrong. Cabbage white butterflies also live in the northern hemisphere. So I looked up butterflies that lived in the northern hemisphere, obviously, and I don't know why. I don't know. I feel like the cabbage white butterflies' wings are so simplistic that it goes with Lily's rooted, grounded, like state of mind, vibe, stuff like that. And it went with her costume, since her costume is kind of like, flowy and like graceful and long, so it draws more attention to the costume, and the wings are kind of just like a cool side touch since they're, so simplistic and so simple. Now, tossing aside the character sheet, this is my color analysis. Um, Green and blue was the vibe for the theme. I wanted it to give a calm, serene feeling because that is what I feel when I hang out with these two. We all are teachers' assistants. Teachers' aides is what my school calls it. So we all aid for the same teacher during the same period. So we spend a lot of time together at some points of the day in school. And whenever I hang out with them, I never feel overwhelmed. I feel very calm, very zen. They are people who keep me grounded in that time period that we spend together. So I feel like green and blue is a good pairing of colors, help portray how they make me feel that. I hope that sentence makes sense. But that's what came to mind. So I knew I wanted it to be us in a garden somewhere. Because the name of this piece is called Aiding Buds. And I think that's a really good name because we are all teachers' aides and we're friends. And in the piece, we're aiding the lily buds in the garden. I don't know. I think it's a really good name. I thought it was really smart, really funny, just a little bit, kind of. And now for the fun part, the final piece. So for my second piece, I decided on a mountain like scene with the flowers at the bottom. And then I was like, okay, it feels like it needs something else. So I decided to do a waterfall. The waterfall goes through a lot of changes in this piece. I originally had it cascading all the way down to the middle of the garden, but then I changed my mind. And then shading water is really hard and it's not something I do often. So I don't know if what I did was my way of going about rendering the water was like a good way to do it, but it's what I could wrap my head around and it looked decent when I finished. And then obviously the mountains I did, shading was a little tricky too because I don't know if I did the perspective of the hills correctly. So yeah, after I finished all that and I was like, okay, this looks decent enough, I went on to the figures. I sketched them in red, obviously, on the ground, and then I went from there. I did it figure by figure. So I started with Lily, and then I did me, and then I did Asael last. Pretty sure. And then after I did all the rendering details, went bit by bit, I clipped all of our separate layers together, and then I rendered lighting last for the environment and on the figures at the same time. I think anatomy wise, I did pretty okay, especially since for the poses, I literally had no reference. I came up with these poses in my head, and I'm pretty proud with what I could put together within my brain. And then I like the haziness of the moon. I add stars in later, and I feel like that's like a very nice and subtle touch that I added to like tie in the night sky vibe. I need to fix up the lighting in this piece a little more, make it a little stronger, really push the moonlight vibe to create some drama in the piece, since that's what Miss Slater said we were required to do for our second piece. She said she wanted an element of drama to be in our piece, and she said I could really do that through the lighting. So I just need to touch that up and make it stronger. But once I do that, I'm piece is like It's good. It's done. It's beautiful. So yeah, that is the second piece. This is aiding buds. Can you believe it? We have two final pieces done in 2 months? 2 months? About? Yeah, 2 months, September and October. And we have two final pieces with a bunch of investigations to go with them. That's productivity right there. And technically, I am moving ahead a little early since I'm already starting my third piece, but we are not quite there in the lesson yet. So I am slowly, not slowly, slowly was the wrong word. I am fastly approaching my goal of doing 15 pieces. I might do a little more just because I'm having so much fun doing this. Drawing my friends and making them into these cool superhero comic characters is like so much fun for me and so much fun for my friends. I showed Asel and Lily their designs. I showed Paige her designs, and they loved them. So I can't wait to keep doing more and making my friends into these cool characters because they're really cool people. So that is it. That is my recap. This is all I have in the span of starting in like mid September. And I got a lot of cool stuff done. This is really sick. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the art. I hope you enjoy the characters. I hope you enjoy the drive and the motive of this portfolio. I want to showcase the inner beauty and inner workings of connections between people. And I think I've done a really good job so far. So that's it for today. Um, make sure to follow me. Follow me. Oh my gosh. Make sure to follow me on all of my social media because I have those. And I will see you guys sometime in the future.